Unknown to known, mysterious wasps. Hello, fellow Mavericks. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Ordinary Maverick podcast. Spring is in the air. It's the time of the year when one naturally feels a sense of anticipation, of newness, of hope. It's something to do with seeing the trees full of leaves, flowers blooming, sunshine, and just a general sense of happiness with people enjoying the outdoors. It's also the time when the school year ends and all over the world it's vacation time. Families planning and going on vacations together. Here where we live, spring is simply wonderful time of the year. Sanjana and I love the uniqueness of all seasons, we must admit, and as Mavericks, enjoy and explore what each turn of earth brings us as new and old and lived experiences. Although spring is very special in many ways, our garden turns into a riot of colors and we see an increase in the visitors to our garden. A family of deer at our doorstep, hummingbirds and many other birds including woodpeckers, owls, and of course there are the bunnies and moles, and then there are the insects. Which brings me to the topic of this podcast, wasps. But before I delve into our connection with wasps, here are some basic facts of this magnificent and diverse insect. Wasps are distinguished from ants and bees by various behavioral and physical characteristics. They have a slender, smooth body and legs with relatively few hair. They are generally predatory or parasitic and have stingers with few barbs that can be removed easily from their victims. There are two broad categories of wasps, solitary and social. The solitary wasps live alone and social wasps, as the name would suggest, live in colonies. There are tens of thousands of species of wasps and the vast majority are solitary in habit. The social ones have about 1,000 species within the family. Most species build isolated nests, with the vast majority nesting in the ground, digging tunnels in the soil in which to lay their eggs. While there are many species, the social wasps within the family Vespidae are the best known species of wasps. Here are some interesting facts of how the nest comes into being. The queen, a fertilized female, begins the colony in the spring by building a small nest and laying eggs that hatch into workers. These workers enlarge the paper-like nest, which is composed of chewed dry plant material, usually wood, that has been mixed with saliva and regurgitated. Depending on the species, the nest can be found in cavities in the soil, in tree trunks, or hanging from leaves, branches, or overhangs in buildings. Now, wasps are a nuisance, right? They can sting, but they can be irritating and frightening to some, plus threat to those allergic to their sting. But they are, I tell you, fascinating insects too. Our interest in wasps was spurred by seeing a wasp nest on our signpost on the homestead grounds. Sanjana got back from a walk and spoke about the nest, and yes, I too had noticed that one. Well, both of us were intrigued and wanted to, dig a bit deeper in our understanding of wasps. Firstly, wasps are very common in the western part of the United States given the weather. Yellow jackets and paper wasps are the most common. Typically, they have slender bodies with narrow waist and appear smooth and shiny. They prey on insects like caterpillars, flies, crickets, and other pests. They are generally not aggressive, but will sting in defense of its colony or itself. Here is where it gets interesting. Like humans, wasps seem to recognize faces as more than the sum of their parts. This is known as holistic processing, like how human facial recognition works. Paper wasps can recognize faces of individuals, a trait uncommon among insects. So watch out, they can recognize you. It's a trait and skill that helps them identify threats and members of their colony. The cold weather ultimately kills the males, workers, and foundation queen. The wasps that survive the winter are young, fertilized queens. And then the whole cycle repeats itself come spring. So the question is, what attracts wasps? Its food sources are like fruit and sweet drinks, strong smell of perfume, and bright colored clothes. They don't like mint though, and planting mint or spraying peppermint spray repels wasps. But most importantly, wasps play an essential role in ecosystems. They are pollinators, pest controllers, with ongoing research in their venom playing a potential role in cancer treatments, and their nests and larvae a role in sustainable food production. It's interesting how we value bees and ants, perhaps because we know more about them and dislike wasps. Ask around about wasps, and you will see this in an instant. Everyone knows the value of bees as pollinators, as honey producers, and a whole lot more, but little is known about wasps apart from their sting. Mavericks, does this sound familiar with so many aspects of life? We tend to form opinions and act with the knowledge we have and disregard or nullify the potential impact of things we know less of or know only one aspect. Do we know that some plants are pollinated exclusively by wasps? Without wasps, elegant plants such as 100 or so species of orchids would become extinct. Like many of you, I love orchids too. The next time you admire an orchid or bring home one, think of the wasp that helped realize this. Wasps are the third most important predators of insects after birds and spiders, and we have research that shows in the UK alone, wasps can eat up to 14,000 tons of insects each summer. Bottom line, let's not make it a practice to ignore, discard things that we don't know or know very little about. Curiosity and the desire to learn is the only constant for a rich and rewarding life. I recall an interesting conversation about flying and planes. My father-in-law, who spent his career flying planes and shared some interesting insights into the world of aviation. One often feels the most important person is the pilot flying the plane, right? Well, it's a yes and a no. No doubt the pilot is important, but there are many more than just the pilot. Let me share about 3 of them here. The engineer who inspects the plane before flying and signs off certifying fit to fly. The guy who removes the chalk, spelled as CHOCK, and the aircraft marshal who guides the planes to and from the gates. All are equally critical. Sanjana recounts her childhood days of watching her dad walking around the plane regardless of the weather, come rain, sunshine, hail or snow, inspecting and doing the final certifications before passengers were allowed on board. Today, the world of computers and technology has taken over this function, but no doubt it was an important one for a safe flight back then. Now, some of you might wonder, what is a chalk? What does it do and why we use such a primitive tool for a multi-million-dollar plane? Chalks are those triangular wedges that are placed on either sides of the wheel when the plane reaches its parking bay and prevents the aircraft from rolling away. Okay, wait a minute. Now you must be thinking, don't planes have brakes to hold it stationary on the ground? Of course, they do have brakes. They do have parking brakes that can be applied once the aircraft comes to a stop using the normal toe brakes. However, there is a critical problem here, as many a times after landing, the brakes get superheated. Long-term exposure to high temperatures can drastically affect the durability of certain brake assembly components, because most modern airlines have hydraulically actuated brakes. So, when parked at the gate, parking brake is released for long with the aircraft chalked. This releases the brake components from the rotors, which allow better dissipation of heat and any potential hazard. Well, so much for the chalks. And thus, they too are needed to be removed before the plane can move after the go-ahead for fit to fly. Aircraft marshal is one who gives the final thumbs up for a plane to fly. The person who gives the go ahead on the ground and shows the way for the pilot to leave the parking stand and start getting to the runway. Without that signal, the aircraft cannot leave the stand and obviously cannot fly. So, you see, we didn't know or knew very little about these three, yet all three are critical and run in a sequence seamlessly, and we as passengers are oblivious, just enjoying the flight and bliss. Fellow Mavericks, we live in an interconnected world and ecosystem. It's, kind of easy to get swept up and in the pressures and perceptions around us and what the world thinks of as important. Here is where the Maverick formula comes in. Remember the first element. Go with your gut. Well, in life, making decisions on career, on persons, on situations, always, and I always say, go with your gut. If you feel there is something more here, some more digging, if your instincts calls to pause and learn further, do it. There's always something more to discover under the surface, and often you need to take that extra step forward. Just like in the case of the mysterious wasp, dig deeper and get fascinated by the insect, or then the three critical individuals other than the pilot alone for a plane. There's a lot more to what meets the wasp, or should I say, meets the plane. What do you think? Write in your comments, share your feedback at theordinarymaverick@gmail.com and follow me on Instagram, #theordinarymaverick. I would love to hear from you. This is Ajay signing off, wishing you have an amazing day. Keep well, stay safe. Credits. This podcast series was put together as a team effort from the Bhardwaj family. Concept, design, title, researchers and reviewers Ajay, Sanjana, Avantika and Niharika Bhardwaj. Script, Sanjana. Cover design, Niharika. All rights reserved.